Hello, my name is Tater, the Translations, Analytics, and Telecommunications Encrypted Robot. My job is to help my companion Solus communicate to viewers like you by translating his thoughts and process on his artwork. Allow me a moment to plug in, and here we go! When beginning any project, I like to make goals about what I want to accomplish. I looked over what my portfolio was lacking and decided to create my own concept for a movie poster. The secondary goal I make is usually to improve on one specific aspect, so for this one, I wanted to make sure that each object has weight to it and looks correct in perspective. At the beginning of the project, I wanted to work on side views of the face, but that quickly dropped after the ideation phase. The original idea was to have a housewife robot interacting with an Art Deco teapot, fully inspired by Hajime Sorayama's pin-up robots. This quickly shifted though, once I looked through more inspiration of movie posters, mainly Miss 45's, which uses the feminine body to sell the movie. The poster depicts a woman's legs in stockings with a man cowering in the middle of them while holding a gun. I only watched the 1981 film after creating the piece. If I had watched it before, the piece would have turned out incredibly different. Miss 45 is a low-budget horror film by Abel Ferreira about a mute woman who gets revenge after being assaulted twice within hours. Is it worth watching? I think it's definitely worth talking about any piece of art. For this film specifically, I think it's worth discussing the ethics of what's depicted on screen. This video isn't about the film though, but Miss 45 handles the initial psychological torment well, but the rest of the film is aged, putting it nicely. If me talking in more vague terms is annoying, you can thank YouTube for that. Getting back on track here, once I landed on that last thumbnail, I decided I wanted the movie poster to depict a woman's heel stepping on a landmine. The idea sort of flooded from there. The main plot of the movie would go like this: a fashion event sponsored by the United States military, showing off new looks while also selling weapons. Think Tony Stark in the first Iron Man film. At the end of the show, they have a stunt where they have 12 models walk down the runway only to step on a landmine that's supposed to be a prop. As rehearsed, several of the models step off the mine without knowing that it was going to explode. Cue a horror film with my fanpics, headcanon actresses, Alison Brie, Essie Davis, and Winona Ryder. I wanted the casting to be a bit older than a typical model in the industry. Like, they wouldn't normally do this gig, but they wanted that spotlight to continue their careers, because the fashion industry always wants younger and skinnier women. The rest of the names I added to the poster are people who have worked on films I'm familiar with, like little Easter eggs for myself and anyone else willing to look them up. The title Failsafe is a reference to the landmines within the film itself. Even with those women gone, the industry will still push forward. The film would be a critique on the fashion industry and the industrial military complex. Generally a film with feminist ideology. While it is mainly like a suspenseful film, I would like it to have humor and mainly be character-driven since the models will be stuck talking to each other for the duration of the film. As far as specific plot beats past that, I haven't really thought about an ending or what would specifically happen after. Maybe in the future I'll do something with the idea like a short game or comic since I'm obviously not able to make a film and, well, animation isn't my passion. Since my goal for this piece was to work on perspective and make sure it's weighted, I started off with some studies. I was mainly trying to focus on the rendering when starting because I tend to struggle with that during the process. That final study was too shiny for my taste, so when rendering for the final image, I made sure to keep that in mind. Landmine surfaces aren't reflective, so the light shouldn't be bouncing off it like it does on the bullets or her shoes. My issue with rendering most of the time is that I overdo it, but I think with this piece I did a good job keeping it minimal. My favorite texture within the piece itself is the stockings. I used a texture in the Clip Studio shop that was called cheesecloth and used it as an overlay. I don't think it's shown in the actual Speedpaint itself, but I tried to use the harmonious triangles to align the composition later on. Harmonious triangles are basically one of the compositional tools used like the rule of thirds or the golden spiral you'll see a lot when discussing composition. For the text, I wanted to mimic movie posters. I went looking for the specific order credits are placed, but there's not one right way to do it, as sometimes posters will add more or less information on them. I personally found it fun to fill in. The credit font is Tahoma Bold, and the title font is Boogie Nights Shadow NF Regular. I grabbed the title font off a free font website, which is incredibly useful. I wanted something that alluded to my initial idea, so I grabbed a font that reminded me of Art Deco. And that about wraps up the piece itself. Whenever you're finished with the piece, it's good to look back on it and examine what can be improved or done better, while also recognizing its strengths. I think the tiling adds great contrast without taking away from the main piece. However, I should have spent more time on the landmine, as it's not entirely clear what it is without context. Despite that, I still think I did a great job on the shoe and the foot. It's important when looking at your art to not be overly negative while still being critical, so that way you can keep improving. Happy creating to all my creatives out there. That's all Solus had to say about the failsafe piece, but I have to go charge now. So I'll see you guys later. Bye bye!